Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, whatever you are. Welcome to another edition of the Esoteric Podcast. This time we will be covering the basic laws of human stupidity. Let's get into it. Human affairs are admittedly in a deplorable state. This, however, is no novelty. As far back as we can see, human affairs have always been in a deplorable state. The heavy load of troubles and miseries that human beings have to bear as individuals as well as members of organized societies is basically a byproduct of the most improbable, and I would dare to say stupid, way in which life was set up at its very inception. After Darwin, we know that we share our origin with the lower members of the animal kingdom. The worms as well as the elephants have to bear their daily share of trials, predicaments, and ordeals. Human beings, however, are privileged insofar as they have to bear an extra load, an extra dose of tribulation originated daily by a group of people within the human race itself. This group is much more powerful than the mafia or the military-industrial complex or the international communism. It is an unorganized, uncharted group which has no chief, no president, no bylaws, and yet manages to operate in perfect unison, as if guided by an invisible hand, in such a way that the activity of each member powerfully contributes to strengthening and amplifying the effectiveness of the activity of all other members. The nature, character, and behavior of the members of this group are the subjects of the following podcast. Let me point out at this juncture that most emphatically, this is neither a product of cynicism nor an exercise in defeatism, no more than anything else we could talk about. The following is in fact the result of constructive effort to detect, know, and thus possibly neutralize one of the most possible dark forces which hinder the growth of human welfare and happiness. The first basic law. Always and inevitably, everyone underestimates the number of stupid individuals in circulation. The first basic law of human stupidity asserts without ambiguity that always and inevitably everyone underestimates the number of stupid people in circulation. As a footnote, the compiler of the Testament were aware that the first basic law, and they paraphrased it when they asserted Stuturus infinitus est numerus, but they indulged in poetic exaggeration. The number of stupid people cannot be infinite because the number of living people is finite. At first, the statement sounds trivial, vague, and horribly ingenuous. Closer scrutiny will, however, reveal its realistic veracity. No matter how high one's estimates of human stupidity, one is repeatedly and recurrently startled by the fact that A. people whom one had once judged rational and intelligent turn out to be unashamedly stupid, and B. day after day, with unceasing monotony, one is harassed in one's activities by stupid individuals who appear suddenly and unexpectedly in the most inconvenient places and at the most improbable moments. The first basic law prevents me from attributing a specific numeral value to the fraction of stupid people within the total population. Any numerical estimate would turn out to be an underestimate. The second basic law. The probability a certain person be stupid is independent of any other characteristic of that person. Cultural trends now fashionable in the West favor an egalitarian approach to life. People like to think of human beings as the output of a perfectly engineered mass production machine. Geneticists and sociologists especially go out of their way to prove, with an impressive apparatus of scientific data and formulations, that all men are naturally equal, and if some are more equal than others, this is attributable to nurture and not to nature. I take an exception to this general view. It is my firm conviction, supported by years of observation and experimentation, that men are not equal, that some are stupid and others are not, and that the difference is determined by nature and not by cultural forces or factors. One is stupid in the same way that one is red-haired. One belongs to the stupid set as one belongs to a blood group. A stupid man is born a stupid man by an act of providence. Although convinced that a fraction of human beings are stupid and that they are so because of genetic traits, I am not a reactionary trying to reintroduce class or race discrimination. I firmly believe that stupidity is an indiscriminate privilege of all human groups and is uniformly distributed according to a constant proportion. This fact is scientifically expressed by the second basic law, which states the probability that a certain person be stupid is independent of any other characteristics of the person. In this regard, nature seems indeed to have outdone herself. It is well known that nature manages rather mysteriously to keep constant and relative frequency of certain natural phenomena. For instance, whether men proliferate at the North Pole or at the equator, whether the matching couples are developed or undeveloped, whether they are black or white, the female-to-male ratio among newly born is constant, with a very slight prevalence of males. We do not know how nature achieves this remarkable result, but we know that in order to achieve it, nature must operate with large numbers. The most remarkable fact about the frequency of stupidity is that nature succeeds in making this frequency equal to the probability, quite independent from the size of the group. Thus, one finds the same percentage of stupid people whether one is considering very large groups or one is dealing with very small groups. No other set of observable phenomena offers such striking proof of the powers of nature. The evidence that education has nothing to do with the probability was provided by experiments carried on a large number of universities all over the world. One may distinguish the composite population, which constitutes a university, in 5 major groups, namely the blue-collar workers, the white-collar employees, the students, the administrators, and the professors. Whenever I analyzed the blue-collar workers, I found that the fraction was always constant for the stupidity. As this value was higher than I expected, and so stating the first law, paying tribute to fashion, I thought at first that segregation, poverty, lack of education were to be blamed. But moving up the social ladder, I found that the same ratio was prevalent among the white-collar employees and among the students. More impressive still were the results among the professors. Whether I consider a large university or a small college, the famous institution or the obscure one, I found that the same fraction of professors are stupid. So bewildered was I by the results that I made a special point to extend my research to a specially selected group of real elite, the Nobel laureates. The result confirmed nature's supreme power. The same fraction of the Nobel laureates are stupid. This idea was hard to accept and digest, but to many experimental results proven its fundamental veracity. The second basic law is an iron law, and it does not admit exceptions. The women's liberation movement will support the second basic law as it shows that stupid individuals are proportionately as numerous among men as they are among women. The undeveloped of the third world will probably take solace in the second basic law as they can find in it proof that after all the developed are not so developed. Whether the second basic law is liked or not, however, its implications are frightening. The law implies that whether you move in distinguished circles or you take refuge among the headhunters of Polynesia, whether you lock yourself into a monastery or decide to spend the rest of your life in the company of beautiful and vivacious women, you always have to face the same percentage of stupid people, which percentage, in accordance with the first law, is always going to surpass your expectations. And now for a short technical interlude. At this point it's imperative to elucidate the concept of human stupidity and to define the dramatis persona. Individuals are characterized by their degrees of propensity to socialize. There are individuals for whom any contact with other individuals is a painful necessity. They literally have to put up with people, and people have to put up with them. At the other extreme of the spectrum, there are individuals who absolutely cannot live by themselves and are even ready to spend time in the company of people whom they do not really like rather than be alone. Between these two extremes there is an extreme variety of conditions, although by far the greatest majority of people are closer to the type who cannot face loneliness than to the type who has no taste for human intercourse. Aristotle recognized the fact when he wrote that man is a social animal, and the validity of his statement is demonstrated by the fact that we move in social groups, that there are more married people than bachelors and spinsters, that so much wealth and time is wasted in fatiguing and boring cocktail parties, and that the word loneliness carries normally negative connotations. Whether one belongs to the hermit or socialite type, one deals with people, although with different intensity. Even the hermit occasionally meets people. Moreover, one affects human beings, but also by avoiding them. What I could have done for an individual or a group but did not do is an opportunity cost, i.e. a loss or a gain, for that particular person or group. The moral of the story is that each one of us has a current balance with everyone else. From action or inaction, each one of us derives a gain or a loss at the same time one causes a gain or a loss to someone else. Gains and losses can be conveniently charted on a graph, and here we can show the basic graph which can be used for this purpose. The graph refers to an individual, let's say Tom. The x-axis measures the gain that Tom derives from his action. On the y-axis, the graph shows us the gain that another person or group of persons derive from Tom's actions. Gains can be positive, nil, or negative. A negative gain being a loss, obviously. The x-axis measures Tom's positive gains to the right of point 0, and Tom's losses to the left of point 0. The axis measures the gains and losses of the person or persons with whom Tom dealt respectively above and below point 0. To make this clear, let us make a hypothetical example and refer to figure 1. Tom takes an action which affects Dick. If Tom derives from the action a gain and Dick suffers from the same action as a loss, the action will be recorded on the graph with a dot which appears on the graph somewhere in area B. Gains and losses may be recorded on the x and y axis in monetary value if one wants, but one has to include the psychological and emotional rewards and satisfactions as well as the psychological and emotional stresses. These are intangibles and they are very difficult to measure according to objective standards. Cost-benefit analysis can help to solve the problem, although not completely. I do not want to bother you with such technicalities. A margin of imprecision is bound to affect the measurement, but it does not affect the essence of the argument. One point, though, must be made clear. When considering Tom's actions, one makes use of Tom's values, but one has to rely on Dick's values and not on Tom's values to determine Dick's gains, whether positive or negative. All too often, this rule of fairness is forgot, and many troubles originate from failure to apply this essentially urbane point of view. Let me resort once again to a banal example. Tom hits Dick on Dick's head and he derives satisfaction from his action. He may pretend that Dick was delighted to be hit on the head. Dick may, however, not share Tom's view. He may, in fact, regard the blow to his head as an unpleasant event. Whether the blow on Dick's head was a gain or a loss to Dick is up to Dick to decide and not Tom. The third and golden basic law. A stupid person is a person who causes losses to another person or to a group of persons whilst himself deriving no gain and even possibly incurring losses. The third basic law assumes, although it does not state explicitly, that human beings fall into four basic categories: the helpless, the intelligent, the bandit, and the stupid. It will be easily recognized by the perspicacious amongst you that these four categories correspond with the four areas I, H, S, and B of the basic graph we saw earlier. If Tom takes an action and suffers a loss whilst producing a gain to Dick, Tom's mark will fall in the category of H. Tom acted helplessly. If Tom takes an action by which he makes a gain whilst yielding a gain also to Dick, Tom's mark will fall in area I. Tom acted intelligently. If Tom takes an action by which he makes a gain causing Dick a loss, he will fall into area B. Tom acted as a bandit. Stupidity is related to area S and to all positions on the y-axis below point 0. As the third basic law explicitly clarifies, a stupid person is a person who causes loss to another person or to a group of persons whilst himself deriving no gain or even possibly incurring losses. When confronted for the first time with the third basic law, rational people instinctively react with feelings of skepticism and incredulousness. The fact is that reasonable people have difficulty in conceiving and understanding unreasonable behavior. But let us abandon the lofty plane of theory and let us look pragmatically at our daily life. We all recollect occasions in which a fellow took an action which resulted in his gain and in our loss. We had to deal with a bandit. We also recollect cases in which a fellow took an action which resulted in his loss and our gain. We had to deal with the helpless person. At this point it is important to notice the qualification "a fellow took an action." The fact that he took the action is decisive in establishing that he is helpless. If I took an action which resulted in my gain and his loss, the judgment would be different. I would be the bandit. Anyway, moving on. We can recollect cases in which a fellow took an action by which both parties gained. This was intelligent. Such cases do indeed occur, but upon thoughtful reflection you must admit that these are not the events which punctuate most frequently our daily life. Our daily life is mostly made of cases in which we lose money and or time or energy or appetite, cheerfulness and good health because of the improbable action of some preposterous creature who has nothing to gain and indeed gains nothing from causing us embarrassment, difficulties or harm. Nobody knows, understands, or can possibly explain why that preposterous creature does what he does. In fact, there is no explanation, or better, there is only one explanation. The person in question is stupid. Frequency distribution. Most people do not act consistently. Under certain circumstances, given a person acts intelligently, and under different circumstances, the same person may act helplessly. The only important exception to the rule is represented by the stupid people who normally show a strong proclivity towards perfect consistency in all fields of human endeavors. From all that precedes, it does not follow that we can chart on the basic graph only stupid individuals. We can calculate for each person his weighted average position in a plane of figure 1, quite independently from his degree of inconsistency. A helpless person may occasionally behave intelligently, and on occasion he may perform a bandit's actions. But since the person in question is fundamentally helpless, most of his actions will have the characteristic of helplessness. Thus, the overall weighted average position of all the actions of such a person will place him in the H quadrant of the basic graph. The fact that it is possible to place on the graph individuals instead of their actions allows some discretion about the frequency of the bandit and the stupid types. The perfect bandit is one who, with his actions, causes to other individuals losses equal to his gains. The crudest type of banditry is theft. A person who robs you of £100 without causing you an extra loss or harm is a perfect bandit. You lose £100, he gains £100. In the basic graph of the perfect bandit, this would appear on a 45-degree diagonal line that divides the area B into two perfectly symmetrical sub-areas. However, the perfect bandits are relatively few. The line 0M divides area B into two sub-areas, BI and BS, and by far the largest majority of the bandits fall somewhere into one of these two sub-areas. The bandits who fall into area BI are those individuals whose actions yield to them profits which are larger than the losses they cause to other people. All bandits who are entitled to a position in Area BI are bandits with overtones of intelligence, and as they get closer to the right side of the Z-axis, they share more and more characteristics of the intelligent person. Unfortunately, the individuals entitled to a position in Area BI are not very numerous. Most bandits actually fall into Area BS. The individuals who fall into this area are those whose actions yield to them gains inferior to the losses inflicted to other people. If someone kills you in order to rob from you £50, or if he murders you in order to spend a weekend with your wife in Monte Carlo, we can be sure that he is not a perfect bandit. Even by using his values to measure his gains, but still using your values to measure your losses, he falls into Area BS, very closely to the border of sheer stupidity. Generals who cause vast destruction and innumerable casualties in return for a promotion or a medal fall into the same area. The frequency distribution of these stupid people is totally different from that of the bandit. While bandits are mostly scattered over an area, stupid people are heavily concentrated along one line, specifically the y-axis below point 0. The reason for this is that by far the majority of stupid people are basically and unwaveringly stupid. In other words, they perseveringly insist in causing harm and losses to other people without deriving any gain, whether positive or negative. There are, however, people who by their improbable actions do not only cause damage to other people, but in addition hurt themselves. They are a sort of super stupid who, in our system of accounting, will appear somewhere in the area of S to the left of the y-axis. Stupidity and power. Like all human creatures, stupid people vary enormously in their capacity to affect their fellow men. Some stupid people normally cause only limited losses, whilst others egregiously succeed in causing ghastly and widespread damages not only to one or two individuals, but to the entire community or society. The damaging potential of the stupid person depends on two major factors. First of all, it depends on the genetic factor. Some individuals inherit exceptional doses of the gene of stupidity, and by virtue of inheritance, they belong from birth to the elite of their group. The second factor which determines the potential of a stupid person is related to the position of power and consequence which he occupies in society. Among bureaucrats, generals, politicians, and heads of state, one has little difficulty in finding clear examples of basic stupid individuals whose damaging capacity was or is alarmingly enhanced by the position of power which they occupied or occupy. Religious dignitaries should not be overlooked. The question that reasonable people often raise is how and why stupid people can reach positions of power and consequence. Class and caste were the social arrangements which favored a steady supply of stupid people to positions of power in the most societies of the pre-industrial world. Religion was another contributing factor. In the modern industrial world, class and caste are banished both as words and as concepts, and religion is fading away. But in lieu of caste and class, we have political parties and bureaucracy. In lieu of religion, we have democracy. Within a democratic system, general elections are a most effective instrument to ensure the steady maintenance of a fraction amongst the powerful. One has to keep in mind that according to the second basic law, there is a fraction of the voting population that are stupid people, and elections offer to all of them at once a magnificent opportunity to harm everybody else without gaining anything from their action. They do so by contributing to the maintenance of the fraction level amongst the powerful. The power of stupidity. It is not difficult to understand how social, political, and institutional power enhances the damaging potential of a stupid person. But one still has to explain and understand what essentially it is that makes a stupid person dangerous to other people. In other words, what constitutes the power of stupidity. Essentially, stupid people are dangerous and damaging because reasonable people find it difficult to imagine and understand unreasonable behavior. An intelligent person may understand the logic of a bandit. The bandit's actions follow a pattern of rationality. nasty rationality, if you like, but it is still rationality. A bandit wants a plus on his account. Since he is not intelligent enough to derive ways of obtaining the plus as well as providing you with a plus, he will produce his plus by causing a minus to appear on your account. All this is bad, but it is rational, and if you are irrational, you are predictable. You can foresee a bandit's actions, his nasty maneuvers, and ugly aspirations, and can often build up your defenses. With a stupid person, this is absolutely impossible, as explained by the third basic law. A stupid creature will harass you for no reason, for no advantage, without any plan or scheme, and at the most improbable times and places. You have no rational way of telling if and when and how and why the stupid creature attacks. When confronted with a stupid individual, you are completely at his mercy. Because the stupid person's actions do not conform to the rules of rationality, it follows that A. One is generally caught by surprise by the attack, and B. Even when one becomes aware of the attack, one cannot organize a rational defense because the attack itself lacks any rational structure. The fact that the activity and movements of a stupid creature are absolutely erratic and irrational not only makes defense problematic, it also makes any counterattack extremely difficult, like trying to shoot an object which is capable of the most improbable and imaginable movements. This is what both Dickens and Schiller had in mind when the former stated that with stupidity and sound digestion man may front much, and the latter wrote, against stupidity the very gods fight in vain. The fourth basic law. Non-stupid people always underestimate the damaging power of stupid individuals. In particular, non-stupid people constantly forget that at all times and places, under any circumstances, to deal and or associate with stupid people infallibly turns out to be a costly mistake. That helpless people, namely those who fall in our accounting system into the area H, do not normally recognize how dangerous stupid people are, is not at all surprising. Their failure is just another expression of their helplessness. The truly amazing fact, however, is that also intelligent people and bandits often fail to recognize the power to damage inherent in stupidity. It is extremely difficult to explain why this should happen, and one can only remark that when confronted with stupid individuals, often intelligent men as well as bandits make the mistake of indulging in feelings of self-complacency and contemptuousness instead of immediately secreting adequate quantities of adrenaline and building up defenses. One is tempted to believe that a stupid man will only do harm to himself, but this is confusing stupidity with helplessness. On occasions, one is tempted to associate oneself with a stupid individual in order to use him for one's own schemes. Such a maneuver cannot but have disastrous effects, because A. It is based on a complete misunderstanding of the essential nature of stupidity, and B. It gives the stupid person added scope for the exercise of his gifts. One may hope to outmaneuver the stupid, and up to a point one may actually do so, but because of the erratic behavior of the stupid, one cannot foresee all the stupid's actions and reactions, and before long one will be pulverized by the unpredictable moves of the stupid partner. This is clearly summarized by the fourth basic law, which states, non-stupid people always underestimate the damaging power of stupid individuals. In particular, non-stupid people constantly forget that at all times and places and under any circumstances to deal and or associate with stupid people infallibly turns out to be a costly mistake. Through centuries and millennia, in public as in private life, countless individuals have failed to take account of the fourth basic law, and the failure has caused mankind incalculable loss. Macroanalysis and the fifth basic law. A stupid person is the most dangerous type of person. A stupid person is more dangerous than a bandit. The consideration on which we ended the discussion of the fourth law is conducive to a macro type of analysis in which, instead of considering the welfare of the individual, one considers the welfare of the society, regarded in this context as the algebraic sum of the individual conditions. A full understanding of the fifth basic law is essential to the analysis. May be parenthetically added here That of the 5 basic laws, the 5th, certainly the best known, and its corollary is quoted very frequently. The 5th basic law states that the stupid person is the most dangerous type of person. The corollary of the law is that a stupid person is more dangerous than a bandit. The formulation of the law and its corollary is still of the microtype. As already indicated, however, the law and its corollary have far-reaching implications of a macro nature. The essential point to keep in mind is this. The result of the action of a perfect bandit, the person who falls on the line 0M of the figure, is purely and simply a transfer of wealth and or welfare. After the action of a perfect bandit, the bandit has a plus on his account, which plus is exactly equivalent to the minus he has caused another person. The society as a whole is neither better nor worse off. If all members of society were perfect bandits, the society would remain stagnant, but there would be no major disaster. The whole business would amount to a massive transfer of wealth and welfare in favor of those who would take action. If all members of society would take action in regular turns, not only the society as a whole, but also the individuals would find themselves in a perfectly steady state of no change. When stupid people are at work, the story is totally different. Stupid people cause losses to other people with no counterpart of gains on their own account. Thus, the society as a whole is impoverished. The system of accounting, which finds expression in the basic graph, shows that while all actions of individuals falling on the right of the line P0M add to the welfare of a society, although in differing degrees, the actions of all individuals falling to the left of same line cause a deterioration. In other words, the helpless with overtones of intelligence area HI, the bandits with overtones of intelligence area BI, and above all the intelligent area I all contribute, although to different degrees, to accrue to the welfare of society. On the other hand, bandits with overtones of stupidity area BS and the helpless with overtones of stupidity area HS manage to add losses to those caused by stupid people, thus enhancing the nefarious destructive power of the latter group. All this suggests some reflection on performance of society. According to the second basic law, the fraction of stupid people is a constant which is not affected by time, space, race, class, or any other social, cultural, or historical variable. It would be a profound mistake to believe the number of stupid people in a declining society is greater than in a developing society. Both such societies are plagued by the same percentage of stupid people. The difference between the two societies is that in the society which performs poorly, A, the stupid members of society are allowed by the other members of society to become more active and take more actions. B, there is a change in the composition of the non-stupid section with a relative decline of populations in areas I, HI, and BI, and a proportionate increase in the populations of area HS and BS. This theoretical presumption is abundantly confirmed by an exhaustive analysis of historical cases. In fact, the historical analysis allows us to reformulate the theoretical conclusion in a more factual way and with more realistic detail. When one considers classical or medieval or modern or contemporary times, one is impressed by the fact that any country moving uphill has its unavoidable percentage fraction of stupid people. However, the country moving uphill also has an unusually high fraction of intelligent people who manage to keep the fraction at bay and at the same time produce enough gains for themselves and the other members of the community to make a progress certainty. In a country which is moving downhill, the fraction of stupid people still remains equal. However, in the remaining population, one notices among those in power an alarming proliferation of the bandits with overtones of stupidity sub-area BS of quadrant B. And among those not in power, an equally alarming growth in the number of helpless individuals, area H in the basic graph. Such a change in the composition of the non-stupid population inevitably strengthens the destructive power of the percentage fraction that makes decline a certainty, and the country goes to hell. And on that note, we conclude this episode. I'd like to thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, wherever you are, whenever you are, whatever you are, I wish you well, and goodbye.